Alright guys, HyDra here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far as the countdown to the World Championship continues. MercuLes looks on absolutely top form to potentially continue his run of devastation since he's joined the league so far this season. It was a revelation on Toronto when he joined them instead of Beans, then got the controversial call up to OpTic Texas with all the drama that's happened with them this season, and has delivered so far, certainly a Major 4, making it to the Championship Sunday again, and maybe looking to go one better for the rest of the season. The shots look on point, the gameplay looks on point, is clearly grinding the game a lot over the last few days, smoking some hackers in the process. Is he the key to OpTic's potential run at champs? They play FaZe, as we know, in the very first round. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Look, I know you guys don't let me talk on it early, but he did do a tweet. I'll just quickly mention it because, you know, we talked about it over the last few days. Rumours that certain players might be considering coming back. And Illy says, should I come back if Black Ops 7 is good? So, anyway, it's out there now. Illy's effectively made clear his intention to potentially return to Black Ops 7 if the game is good. Look, clearly, you can't take the passion away from Illy, right? You can take the Illy out of CoD, you can't take the CoD out of Illy. That's my perspective. Would it work out for him if he came back? Obviously, it didn't really go to plan this year at all. Maybe next year will be more suited. We'll see in due course. Of course, some of the players have either been grinding or not grinding. We know that some of the guys have been playing like Counter-Strike over the last few days. We will get into in the coming minutes some people that actually are playing competitive Call of Duty. MercuLes certainly among them. I did want to quickly comment on the format that we've had in the CDL this season and what needs to change going forwards, because over the last couple of days I've seen more and more tweets and frustrations from the fans. They're like, hang on a second here, DreamHack Dallas feels like a rather long time ago now, which is true because it was. We've had a couple of weeks off, and now, you know, what are we doing, right? Like, where's champs? And I've seen many people, they've seen tweets about champs, they've seen videos or whatever about champs, and they're like, oh, is it this weekend's? It's like, no. They released the schedule a while ago for the first day of champs, and they didn't even put the date on it. People thought it was happening the upcoming weekends because they were like, yeah, surely a 2-week break makes a bit of sense. Back in the day, in the CWL, we used to have plenty of events that would happen, but the World Championship happened typically shortly after the playoffs. It was a bit of a strange format in some respects, because at the end of the CWL, you would have, let's say, Black Ops 4 in Miami. You had the Black Ops 4, like, stage playoffs, basically, with the best teams in the world. And then 2 weeks after that was the World Championship with even more of the best teams in the world. And on that occasion, the team that won the final tournament, United, then won it again a couple of weeks later. But back then, the gaps between the major tournaments were far shorter, right? During the regular season, there would typically be a major championship of some kinds. Then there would maybe even be a roster change period. We kind of used to have those. There would be periods where the teams could make moves. Nowadays, you pretty much do whatever you want, which I'm down for, to be fair. Like, I'm actually happy with the way that it's gone nowadays compared to having roster move periods and roster deadlines and stuff. I kind of like how it is now, but it did make things pretty dramatic, as I'm sure you could tell, during that brief period. And then you'd go back to season league matches, some of them were on LAN, but the gaps between the majors, they never tried to make them, especially if there was no CoD happening at all, they never tried to make them more than 2 weeks, right? And I think this is the issue nowadays. A 2-week gap is not ideal, but sometimes it's acceptable. I think a 2-week gap can build some hype and some momentum, right? Like, you take a weekend off, people are talking about the tournament that's just happened, and then the following week, people are talking about the tournament that's upcoming. Any more than a 2-week gap means that the period in the middle, just nobody, nobody's interested, right? People are like, I'll tune back in when the World Championship is on. You can't maintain the storylines for that long. Especially if there's no other CoD happening. If there was, I don't know, a couple of little minor tournaments that the CDL were throwing in on the run-up to champs, I'm not saying it would be, it would feel a strange idea, right, to fill this gap with a couple of minor tournaments. But it's something at least to think about. My concern is that we are going to move more in the direction of doing tournaments such as DreamHack, right? Now, DreamHack on its own, great tournament. The idea of combining CoD with the DreamHack event was great. My concern about it is that DreamHack chooses their dates and times and cities not based on CoD. They choose it on what they think is best for all the things they're doing. And it's not just DreamHack, this is true for other events that the CoD League could partner with as well, because it's more cost efficient to do so. And that's what I think kind of derailed this season, because DreamHack Dallas had a set date at the end of May. And therefore, that's when we had to do the major. Now, you know, they probably looked at it and said, well, okay, it can't really be major 3. We'd have to drag out the first part of the season too much. Probably got to be major 4. And look, it would have been fine if it was major 4 if we just had another major cycle afterwards. But of course, we didn't. And therefore, to make champs at a reasonable time frame for them, we then had a month wait between the tournaments. So, you know, just from top to bottom, I think the league has made progress over the last few years. There have been some elements that have got better about this league. But you get to positions like this, and despite what's actually been a pretty entertaining season, I think largely because of OpTic having all their chaos, like that's created lots of the intrigue this season. The game and the maps haven't been great. The format definitely has left something to be desired. We've had some positives. The minor tournaments I think were a good idea. I'm down for some more minors going forwards. Don't clip that. But you know what I'm saying. But then at the end of the season we get into a situation like this where the community kind of feels like, is the season over, right? Like, you know, who won? Was it Thieves? Was it FaZe, right? Like, but actually no, there is a massive tournament upcoming in just a few days' time, but it's just that whole run for it. Surely the league have to think about it, because occasionally we've seen something like this before, but I don't think it's ever been quite to this extent. And obviously the pros not maybe playing too many 8s or whatever hasn't exactly helped the outcome, but it's not really about that. I think the whole concept of ending the regular season and then having a month off with nothing happening is just a big error that really should be avoided. And as I say, back in the day, this month would have been, like this most recent weekends that we just had, would have been the playoffs, right? They would have done like a season playoffs 2 weeks after the end of the regular season, and then there would be the World Championship that would have all of the teams. Effectively nowadays the playoffs is just champs, right? Because there's the 8 teams there. Whereas what would happen before is that you'd have the playoffs and the teams that did the best in the regular season, and then the World Championship would be the big tournament, which was all of those teams, and then another, you know, 24, or certainly you would have another 16 teams that came from the amateur side that could still play in the tournament as well. And it was a great event. I mean, in Black Ops 4, E United won the playoffs and champs, but they beat Gen G in the finals of the playoffs, and Gen G bombed out top 32, I think it was, at the World Championship a couple of weekends later. So, yeah, just something that the league has to think about going forwards. And let's be real, they've got plenty of time to think about it, right? Because I don't think the game, you know, is after, of course, the World Championship and the World Cup. It's going to be another serious gap until we find out what's going to happen next season for Black Ops 7, which hopefully is a better game, and also hopefully is a better format around the game. Just, you know, concerning for me on some level that Black Ops 3, as much as I loved that game, and I'm not going to criticize it at all in any way, the only criticism I have for Black Ops 3 is that the competitive scene around that game at the time was not as good as it could have been. It was the first year of the Call of Duty World League. There weren't really that many tournaments, to be honest. And even then, was it a better format than today, having loads of online play all the time and loads of intrigue in the competitive scene? I think arguably yes. But I'm just hoping that if BO7 is as good as we think it could be, and obviously it has loads of Black Ops 3 vibes, there's lots of optimism that maybe they put more time into BO7 than they did even to this most recent game, BO6. The maps are going to be better. Like, we'll see what happens in due course. I'm not, you know, massively confident about it, but the point is that if the game is great, we need a good competitive scene to make that happen, because otherwise we're not going to see any growth in this COD space, and that, I think, is what we want at the end of the day. Has this scene, competitive COD, really grown in the last, I mean, certainly in the last 5 years, I would say no. Even in the last decade, would you say it's got any better since Black Ops 3 was actually here? Arguably no as well. So, you know, lots of things I think for the league to think about. I'm hoping that they come up with the right answers, but, you know, obviously every year that goes by, it's difficult to maintain confidence that this scene is really moving in the right direction. But, like, I think we still all love competitive Call of Duty at the end of the day, despite the problems that it is currently experiencing. But let's talk about the World Championship. Scrappy's getting ready to go. Loads of these other players are getting ready to go, such as MercuLes. Now, Pred is just playing some ranked. He's going to be playing at the World Cup and not, of course, at the World Championship. Priester was playing some ranked as well. He is potentially going to be playing at the World Cup and not at the World Championship. We'll see. You know, Arcetes and Priester, obviously in the replies here, there was discussion of whether Falcons would make a change. And maybe they still will post-Champs, right? They're not going to make a change now, before Champs has happened, because they're not going to Champs, and they can't get any players that are playing at Champs. So, and maybe they can't anyway, because there could be a roster lock before the World Cup. I'm hoping there's not, because we need some roster drama after Champs, or nothing's going to be happening again. But it is what it is. But just to say that these two guys still interacting here, so it looks like that's still the status quo for at least the time being. But MercuLes, as we know, also been playing some ranked. Shotzzy talked about it the other day and said that Shotzi's, been grinding a little bit. Dashy's been playing some Counter-Strike to clear his head to play CoD. Huke's just been sitting there watching VOD all night. And MercuLes has been playing some ranked. Now, there are some questions about ranked, just because, the new patch update versus the old patch update, what the pros are playing on. But still, it's good opportunity to practice your shot, get dialed in, and I think MercuLes in many respects has impressed a lot of people when it comes to just his raw gunny, right? We talk about gunny nowadays not being as big of a factor as it used to be, and I think that's probably fair on some level. Back in the day when the aim assist was weaker, games like Infinite Warfare, for example, the guys with the better gunny would have a substantial advantage. Nowadays, the aims is a bit of a laser beam. We know that dynamic aim assist is a thing, right? Like, it's got easier and easier to shoot over time, and the gap between guys like Scrappy, guys like Dashy, that in my opinion, from an AR perspective, have the best shot, when you watch their POV, you can see it. You can see that they're better than their other pros, I would say. But it's not substantially enough that you can be like, wow, this guy's just built different, like you used to see back in the day, even the game like BO4 or something, right? You really got the sense of like, wow, okay, even among the pros, this guy's just different gravy. Nowadays, because the way the game is easier, you don't really get that. But you still can kind of tell that some players just have it, right? I think the MercuLes, for all of the pros that he has as a player since he's come into the league, his gunning maybe is even a little bit underrated, right? Like, he's been playing lots of ranked over the last few days, and there have been a few clips going around like this. People are starting to call him the anti-cheat or whatever. There was one that happened on Rewind the other day, and here he is on Hacienda, of course, just basically hitting every single bullet on these guys. And, it's just kind of insane to watch the pros play at this level, but the movement as well was super clean as well. And I think with MercuLes, it's been interesting because people haven't really talked so much about his gunny. They've talked about his decision-making, the fact that he's a really difficult kill on the map. His comms are pretty damn good as well. And every team that he's come into so far, he seems to have improved. Certainly from like the perspective of a rookie just coming in, he's been highly, highly impressive. But also, you've got to shoot straight to be at this level. And the fact that, some of these guys I'm pretty sure are hacking, like on the other team. He's been playing lots of cheaters over the last few days in ranked, and the cheaters can't keep up, right? Like the aim hacks, the wall hacks, whatever they've got, MercuLes is putting them down and winning games regardless on his own, which is, particularly impressive. And I think MercuLes has gained a lot of fans recently, but also has gained a lot of optimism, I think, around the community. I've seen some of the OpTic podcasts over the last few days. I think MercuLes even is sometimes can be a nice like level head in that room as well. Like, there's been a few discussions that MercuLes isn't just sitting there and blindly agreeing with his teammates. He's like, no, I have this opinion on it, and I think that's a good thing in general. So what I find remarkable about a player like MercuLes really is the fact that we might not even be talking about it right now. We probably wouldn't, let's be honest, if Beans hadn't had the visa issues with Toronto, right? Like, Merc was going to be stuck in challenges, and who knows when or if he would ever get the opportunity, which I think is an exciting prospect for the league. If there's one exciting thing to say is that, okay, if MercuLes exists, which he does, and he's cooking, getting ready for the World Championship to potentially try and go one better with OpTic, right? Obviously came top 3 with Toronto, top 4 with OpTic at the most recent tournament, and the World Championship on the horizon. People are saying, wow, is there more MercuLes out there? And hopefully there is, and like hopefully teams find those opportunities in due course. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. We have, of course, in Drazah trying to get some chals in 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. He's going to play whatever. Whether these ever happen is a bit of a question mark. But yeah, as I say, 11 days, 10 days pretty much now until the World Championship gets, I think it might be, 9 days as of, I think it's the 26th of June that the tournament officially gets underway. So the teams are, of course, doing their final preparation. That seems to be true for MercuLes as well. Very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Sprite,
Huh, I'm the fucking anti-cheat.
is known to take their to another level.
Mafia's on the news.
After Fox 11 first aired this story promo, members of Shoreline Mafia posted to their Instagram account this response. Expletive Fox.
He said I'm raging, I'm rage hacking.